welcome back to the vlog. We are out in the garden and I am going through my table of seedlings that I've been hardening off for the last week and some change to figure out what I want to start planting out today. I'm going to continue plopping my containers roughly where I'm going to plant them. I'm going to go get my little hand rake and hand shovel and we'll just start putting things in. I've already topped all the beds with compost last week, so the soil should be good for planting. We don't have the irrigation hooked up yet, so we do still have to finalize that, but because the plants are so small, we still have plenty of time to finish getting that hooked up. We are still waiting on our new hoses, so those should come, I think, this week, and we can get that all set up, and then we will be off to the races. So let's go get some things planted. I'm back inside, taking a quick break. I'm going to whip up some mac and cheese for lunch. I also sliced up some apples. It's a very kid lunch, but it hits the spot. We've made great progress. I have completed the border garden. I got totally distracted and started weeding everything, but I'm glad that I did because it was driving me nuts and I just needed to get on the ground and slowly pick weeds out one by one. There was also some grass growing back that I hadn't totally pulled out when I turned the beds over in the first place. So it's looking a lot better. I stuck some things in the ground, gave everything a good water, and then next I'm going to switch gears to the raised beds and plant a few things in those. And then I'm going to pick up dog poo and hand mow the parts of the lawn that we can't get the big mower in, specifically around the garden. It's been driving me nuts because all the grasses are getting tall and I just want it crisp and weed whacked and mowed down. So that's what we're gonna do today. decided to spare you the monotony of me planting every individual plant, but we made a ton of progress. I still have a whole table full of seedlings that needs to be planted, but we've got a whole bunch of stuff in the ground, and I've been able to update my square foot spreadsheet to adjust some things, and I will show you what we've done so far. Matt also planted a whole bunch of onions in the back bed, so I'm realizing we're starting to run out of space. We might have to make another garden bed, but we will see. We're not there yet. We might be able to squeeze everything in, and I have a handful of extras that I will probably throw in the plant sale because it's not really enough to do much with, and I don't want to go overboard on some things. Like, I have a ton of wild bergamot. It's great, but I don't need it everywhere, so trying to reel things in and be reasonable. You know, it's only year 2 in the garden. We don't need to go crazy yet, but I'm gonna flip the camera and I will show you all the things I've planted so far. Starting with the border garden, I weeded and Matt edged out all of the beds so they look much cleaner now. I moved some things around to make space, but we've got some Tiny Tim alyssum in the front of a bunch of the beds. That's little white flower. That's just an annual. We've got some wild bergamot. I planted some of the teeny weeny columbines. I also planted a few in this planter here and put one of the hibiscus seedlings in the center. We've got some rosemary. I think this might be ageratum, I forget how to say it, but that's an annual as well. I kept my mint in the pots in the corners for now. We've got more columbine here, more rosemary, more ageratum in the back there, wild bergamot, and I ended up planting some lavender on the sides of some of these beds. So I've got some lavender right here, and then I think I planted some over here, but it's hiding behind all this grass that got cut. I also planted more in this little planter, and I think that's it for the border gardens. The reason I planted in some of these small beds is because eventually these teepees will go away, so I want to start building some mature plants, and these probably won't bother the sweet peas, which are kind of taking their sweet time anyway. You can see they've definitely gotten bigger, but they're not quite at this first string line yet, so we will see. I'm still crossing my fingers hoping that they'll reach up and start growing faster, but who knows. Then in the beds, we've got all kinds of stuff. So some of this stuff popping up is what I seeded several weeks ago, so that's most of our greens. But we ended up putting in, I don't know if you can see them on the camera, these tiny little bunching onions. I put a couple of cilantro here. They're a little floppy because I watered them. And then behind me, I put a rosemary in the bed here. That's a viola. We've got parsley at the end here. A couple of marigolds. And then in this back corner, I did 8 celery. I tried to give them enough space to see how they do in the raised beds, and then I put 2 fennel here. The rest of the celery and then another batch of fennel will go in the back bed. And I think that was it for this bed. And then over here, we've got some more marigold there, some more fennel, some more cilantro. Put a viola in the corner here. We've got some dill on this left side, more marigold, the leftovers of the green onions, the bunching onions, and then I put another viola here. That's Greek oregano in the corner. And then along this front edge, we did a handful of red onions, just to see again how they do in the beds. And I think that's it. I've kind of stuck to the edges for now because a lot of what I've planted so far are smaller, lower plants, and I want to reserve the middle for the taller, bigger, beefier plants. So we'll save the tomatoes, the peppers, things like that for, I don't know, maybe a week. I might get them into the end of this vlog. We'll see how the weather is. But some of this stuff will rotate out as it sort of dies in the middle of the season. Some of it we will do succession planting so that we have more to harvest later in the season. And some of it we might just not have room for, so it'll have to go in the back bed, a container, the front bed, I don't know, TBD. In the back bed, Matt did 3 rows of onions, so we've got the rest of the red, white, and yellow, or yellow and white, I can't remember. Really, this is a trial to see if the onions prefer this bed in the open space, or if they do okay in the raised beds, then we can kind of pivot next year depending on what the best location is. I suspect it will be this here. The peas over here are doing well. Those are popping up. So we've got, I think it was the sugar snap peas on this side and the snow peas on this side. Leeks are very happy. Garlic and shallots, I mean, you've seen those before, but they are just taking off. So really excited about those, and definitely going to be planting fall bulbs for both of those again this year because they did so well. I haven't pulled any up yet, obviously, but at least from the top, they seem very happy and healthy. And then our irises back here are looking very full. I think those will pop up end of May, maybe early June. I can't remember exactly, but when they do, I will be sure to share that with you. Lots of good progress today, but I'm getting tired and I'm getting hungry, and that is a sign that it's time to call it quits. So I'm going to clean up, go inside, wash my hands, which are completely filthy, and I think while Matt makes dinner, I'm going to bake some oatmeal cookies because we have a ton of oatmeal and we need to start using it up, so I think cookies are in order. Weekend flew by, so now we're back at the work week, and I'm taking a break to eat some leftover dinner. Matt made this like chicken pasta artichoke dish last night, and it was absolutely delicious. I always forget how much I love artichokes until I have them again, and then I want to eat them in everything. So I will share the recipe in case you're interested in trying it. I do have another very exciting task that I need to do, which I kept forgetting about, which is probably a good thing because you do need to forget about it for a little bit. So I'm going to show you how I prepare my potatoes for planting. You can buy seed potatoes. I think they're just grown without chemicals, whereas potatoes from the grocery store are treated with all kinds of chemicals, unless you're buying organic, of course. So they might not yield what you're hoping for. Last year was the first year I planted potatoes. It was amazing. It was my #1 favorite thing to grow and harvest. It was like digging for gold, which was just thrilling. Last year I planted organic fingerling potatoes, and that was great. This year I found organic russets and organic gold, just like this in a bag. And all you need to do is take your bags when you get back from the grocery store, stick them in a cupboard or a dark, cold place, and forget about them for a little bit. Once they start growing eyes, try these little white sprouts that you see, then you're ready to slice and dice and prepare them for planting. When you get to that point, you want to cut them up into chunks and make sure to include an eye on every single piece. If you don't have an eye, it's not going to grow, so that's the most important part. Then once you have all your slices, you just lay them out and let them dry up, heal over, scab over, so they're kind of like dry to the touch. You don't want to let it sit for like days and days and days. It's just really like 24 to 48 hours, and then they're ready for planting. So then you just take each chunk that you've cut up and you actually stick it so the eye is facing up. That's where the plant is going to come out. And you want full sun, you want, you know, good draining soil, like all the normal stuff. I usually just dig a big row, fill the whole thing with compost, and then just set each potato slice like 10 to 12 inches apart. The more space, obviously, the more it has to grow all those extra potatoes underground, so it's important that you give them room. And aside from watering, you don't think about them until the fall. Obviously you can't see them, they just keep growing. So I think people do a technique where they mound, so as they grow you kind of keep mounding them up, so you don't have to dig deep into the ground to harvest them. You just kind of have to like harvest in the mound, but that's just a preference. I didn't do that last year and it was fine. So anyway, I'm gonna slice these up. I'm going to set them aside, let them dry out, and then in a day or two we will go outside and plant them. got a pretty big haul, and that was just from 2 bags of potatoes. So some of them have really big eyes like this, and others are just small little guys, but really as long as they have one eye attached to the sort of chunk that you cut, it should be good. There were a few that I couldn't tell, like, is that an eye? Is it just a small eye? So I cut a couple pieces that are like testers to see if they actually work. And some of these might just not work, and that's fine. I think we've got plenty to choose from. And honestly, if all of these produce 6 or 8 potatoes each, we will have potatoes out our ears. So it'll be perfectly fine if some of these don't take. But I'm going to leave these out on this dish towel. I'm gonna let them just dry over. Basically, I'll know when they're kind of like scabbed over, like I can touch them and they're not wet like they are now. And then we can take them outside and I'll show you how I plant them. Alright, back outside again. I've got my basil planted in the raised bed, and then I planted a whole bunch of purple basil in the border garden. That's just an annual, but I'm trying to kind of mix annuals and perennials and like different shades of violets and greens and blues and whites, and I like that it'll have some fragrance, so I stuck that in a few places. I also had some hyssop, and I put that in the border garden. I also put some in the front garden. So anytime I have kind of extras of things, I'm just kind of mirroring that in the front garden, so we've got a little bit of cohesiveness. Plus I've got the space there, so it's just some place to stick it. I don't know for sure what will stay in that front garden. I'm sure that will evolve over the years because it's a much bigger space, so I can fit larger plants. But for now, until I figure that out, it's a great like overflow space. The Genovese basil ended up here on this side, so I did 8 plants. Those will grow nice and big, but they don't have to be super spread out, and I'll use a lot of this for pesto. And then over here, I'll show you what the purple basil looks like. So it's a really pretty like dark violet, almost like a red kind of undertone. So I put like clumps of 2 or 3 kind of spaced throughout, and that will be another place we can pick from or just let it live for color. This is the hyssop, so this will grow and has these like little violet spikes. I don't know the exact shade, but it is an herb, so it is edible, and it also just adds some nice color to the garden. So we're getting pretty full in the border garden. Obviously it doesn't look like much now, but these are all going to fill out, and then we'll kind of see where we have gaps and what we need to replace in terms of annuals. So that is coming together nicely. And I also wanted to show you that our French breakfast radishes are starting to pop up, which is super exciting. Still, oops, can't really see it. Still a little bit longer before they're like a reasonable size to eat, but they are emerging. I'm also going to walk out to the front to show you that space because I've just kind of been sticking stuff there and I haven't really shown you what I've been doing. It's kind of been taken over by weeds. I need to like tidy all this up, and a lot of this low green stuff, this is all weeds, so I gotta pick that out. But I started putting some, oh yeah, I forgot I put violas in as well. I put those in the border garden, but I also put a couple along the front edge here. I think I did 4. So hopefully those will give us a little bit of color. We've got some hyssop here and another one over here. More violas. I think I put a wild bergamot over here on the side, and that might be it. These are irises starting to pop up, and these are the alliums that are just a little bit behind the ones that I have in the garden. I also haven't shown you the hydrangeas in a while. I just gave them a really good drink because the leaves were looking really floppy, but we're getting some good greenery. Some of them don't have any greenery yet. This one you can see is a bit floppy, but I just gave it a drink, so hopefully it'll perk up shortly. And this one here is doing probably the best of them all. It's also the biggest of them all, so it certainly had a head start. But so far, nothing's dead, which is a good sign. Now I'm just going to make my way over to the back bed so I can plant the rest of the fennel, celery, and maybe a few extra herbs. I might put those in a planter, but I haven't decided yet, so we'll see what I have space for. We've got the rest of the celery and fennel planted back here. I tried to keep them about 8 inches apart or so, roughly. Fennel's spaced a little bit wider apart. I put some marigold seedlings at the ends. I had these tiny little seedlings, so I just stuck them in to see if they would take. They might die. Everything's a little bit floppy because I just watered it, but hopefully once it gets a good drink soaked up, they'll flop back up and start growing strong back here. And then I just watered the onions, which are looking pretty good. At least they're standing up straight. Nobody's flopping over, which is a good sign. And I gave our peas a water, and they're all popping up, which is exciting. I think I'm gonna have to thin these out a little bit because I planted a lot of seeds. So we're either gonna have a ton of peas or I need to do some trimming. I just ran inside to change, take my glasses off, and grab some clippers because I am going to clip a few lilacs to create a little arrangement to bring inside. I like to enjoy them on the bush for a while, but then I like to clip a few and bring them in to enjoy them more inside, and they're so fragrant, they just smell so good, so I want to bring that in the house. We also have a lot more of the white ones than we did last year, still much smaller than our like pale violet, but I'm excited to see those pop up. I think last year we had like a weird freeze season, so it threw off a lot of the blooming bushes and plants. But this year they seem to have popped back up, and hopefully they'll continue to spread so we have more and more along this rock wall area. we are with our little lilac haul. I've got a few white and then a few purple. Some of the purple have like different shades, which is nice. It gives it a little bit of depth. And I kept the leaves on at the top and just clipped them all off at the ends so the leaves aren't sitting in the vase of water. But I think that gives it some nice variety and it makes it nice and full and fluffy, which I love. I wish you could smell them. They are so strong and fragrant. The house is gonna smell so good. Happy Tuesday. I don't know how it's only Tuesday. It feels like it should be Friday, but alas, here we are. I am taking a brain break and I'm gonna go outside and weed the front garden for a little bit. It's just in desperate need of clean out and I've been putting it off, so I'm just gonna go sit in the sun and pick some weeds out for a short little bit. I also got our hoses delivered, so I'm hoping I'll have some time later this afternoon, evening to hook those up. And when I get outside to do that, I will share with you how it's all going. These are from a company called Eley. It's E-L-E-Y. Can't really see it. It's just like embossed on the hose here. So I did a whole bunch of research, and as I'm sure you can imagine, hose reviews and opinions about hoses are all over the place. People buy cheap ones, they love them, they last forever. People buy cheap ones, they break every year, they have to replace them. People buy expensive ones, they love them. People buy expensive ones, they hate them, they say don't waste your money. So it's really hard to kind of figure out what the best option is, and sometimes you just gotta go for it. Make a decision, try it out, see if it works, and that's what I did. So this company, they have one color hose, this light gray, which of course is important to me because I want a hose that's pretty. I don't need neon colors, that's just not my vibe. So I liked the gray because it's neutral and it blends in. It's not gonna be a sore thumb in my garden. The hardware is all brass. Because of that, you have to be aware of what you're hooking this into. You wanna do brass to brass, you don't wanna do brass to aluminum because it can corrode and they'll weld together and you'll literally never get them apart. So that is something to be aware of, but brass is so much prettier, so that's a plus. These hoses are polyurethane, so I'm not super strong. This is just really light. So this is a 100-foot hose, and I think it's like 14 pounds or something, so it's super lightweight, easy to drag around, and that's important because we've got gardens everywhere, and not with this hose, but with the other hose I'll be dragging it all over. They also have a 10-year no-leak warranty, so if this thing starts leaking for any reason, obviously, like, if your dog chews it, that's not their problem, but they do have a warranty, which is good for peace of mind. They have all kinds of hardware that you can buy from them. It's Certainly more expensive. I didn't get anything yet. I wanted to kind of see how the hoses worked out. The one thing that they do have, which I love the concept of, is the quick release connectors. And that just makes it a lot easier to attach and detach your hose from various attachments or even the spigot from the house. Much easier. You don't have to like spend the time like screwing it on and screwing it off. So I did a little research on quick connect brass fittings, and there are some other brands that have them. Obviously, you know, they might not be as good of quality, so I'm going to continue to do a little research and I will decide whether or not I'm going to buy from them or elsewhere. But either way, the quick connect feature is very appealing to me. Let's run this hose. I'm going to pause on that for now because I have decided that I'm going to stick the tomatoes in. I've been going back and forth, like researching, reading, and it's all over the place, and honestly, the weather seems to be fine and it's pretty consistent, and I really just can't imagine it getting worse. And if it does, I can just throw some remay on them and protect them. So we're doing it. We're gonna stick the tomatoes in. I'm gonna put them in the 2 center beds here where I have the trellises, and we're just gonna cross our fingers and hope for the best. Are now all in. So I did 4 in each of these middle beds, kind of like alternating on the different sides of the trellises, and I buried them pretty deep. All of these little fuzzies on the stem will become roots. So if you bury them deep, they just get like a stronger, more robust root system. So that's why I buried part of the stem. But we've got Big Beef, which is like a standard big juicy red tomato. Gin Fizz, which I think is like a yellowish color. And then in this bed, we have Defiant. I don't know what those are. I think those are a greenhouse tomato, so we'll see how they do. And then San Marzano. So these are good for like tomato pastes and sauces and things like that. And then this year, for the first time, I'm going to trellis some of the cherry tomatoes. So we've got Super Sweet 100 over here. And let's see, what did I put on this side? These are the sun golds over here. So they'll both come up each side and we'll have a mixture of cherry tomatoes. Now that I have the tomatoes in, I think I'm gonna put a few snapdragons around where the tomatoes are. Not all of them, just like a couple on each trellis for some color and mixture. The rest of these will go in the driveway side raised beds, and then if I have any extra, I'll put some in the back bed. Friday morning and I'm out in the back garden just about to plant our potatoes. So they've been drying for the last few days and they're ready to go. If we wait too much longer, they will just shrivel up and get moldy and be useless. So it's time to get them in the ground. I have with me a bucket of the compost mixture, some worm castings, my potato slices, and a shovel. I'm basically just going to dig a couple of trenches, fill them with the compost and a little bit of worm castings to amend the soil. Worm castings are super nutritious. And then I'm going to lay my potato slices in with the eye facing up. The eye is what produces the plant, not the roots, so you do want to face it up. So I'll space those about maybe 12 inches apart. I'm sure you should technically space them further, but we have a lot, so I'm gonna see how many I can fit in. And then I'm just gonna cover them with dirt and water them and we'll see what happens. Have 4 rows of potatoes planted. I have this little mound of soil kind of between the rows because as the plants start popping up, you mound them up with soil. So I'm gonna try that this year and I just left a little reserve so it's easy to kind of shove it over the plants as they continue to grow, and that way it's a little easier to dig them up when it's time to harvest. So for now we water and we cross our fingers that plants start popping up. I had to take a break to get work started for the day, but I just went outside, watered everything in the back bed, including the potatoes. So we'll just continue to keep an eye on them, make sure they're staying watered. I tend to forget about things in the back bed there because they're just not in my line of sight. So I have to be better about that. But I'm outside on the front porch because I wanted to show you I repotted a few of my leftover herbs because I'm going to include them in our land trust plant sale this weekend. And I created some like mixed herb pots because I thought that might be fun. They're all very small, but I figure we'll just sell them for like $3 or $5 and people can do what they want with them. So I'll show you that. And then I'm gonna head inside, and I actually offered to make some signs for all of our plant tables at the sale. So I'm whipping out my old skill set from my calligraphy days and I'm gonna make some signs. Each of these little 4-inch pots have 1 or 2 of each plant in them. So I've got Greek oregano, wild bergamot, purple basil, parsley, cilantro, and green or Genovese basil. And then these guys are my little mixed herb pots, which I think are so cute. Some of these look a little bit floppy on the sides, but the center is where like the new growth is. So these are just a mix of whatever I had left over from these varieties here. And then I have a couple pots of lavender. They're a little dirty from when I watered them, but I put 4 in each of these planters, which are like 6-inch planters. I figured it would be nice to have a big full pot of lavender. And then I had just 2 leftover dill, so I stuck those in a pot. The rest of these are what I need to get in the ground here. So it's becoming less and less. We've got peppers, flowers, squash, cucumber, all that stuff. And I'm just looking to see if there's anything else. Just some extra herbs, like I saved some of the purple basil and lavender that I'll put in this front bed here. So just a few left of those. For a minute the other day I was like feeling this weight lift off my shoulders because I was like, oh my gosh, everything is almost in the ground. I can just enjoy the garden. And then I remembered that phase 2 is defending your garden from all the pests. So everything will be in the ground, but I'll be spending the summer picking bugs off and covering things and clipping plants back so that disease doesn't spread, but at least I'll be outside, right? Back inside at the table, and I've got my stack of signs that I actually painted last night. So I just took scrap 1/4-inch plywood, painted the front side with some leftover like sample paint I had. Shocker, it's green. So what I'm going to do is take my signs and sticky notes, and I'm going to label on each of them what I'm going to write, because I've got a mix of sizes. Some of them will be better for short words, some for long words. I did not cut these all to the same size. I just went in the barn, found whatever scrap wood we had, and called that good. So they're kind of varying. Some are like long and skinny, like this one. Some are a little bit more like chunky rectangles. One is larger because I'm going to put like the price range on there. So I'm gonna label these, and then I'm gonna take my chalk pencil and I just like loosely sketch the text on there. And that just gives me a guide so I don't like get distracted and make my letters too wide or too tall or whatever, and everything fits on the sign. Then I'm gonna take my paint and a fat paintbrush, and I'm just gonna like, you know, paint it on. I'm gonna try not to be too much of a perfectionist. That's a really hard thing for me to do, but I'm gonna try to just like let it be. We're just gonna have some fun. all good to go. I honestly don't think I've ever worked through a sign project that quickly because it was such low pressure. So I really enjoyed doing that, and I'm excited to show you them all set up, but that will not be until next week because the sale is on Sunday and it won't fit into this video. But I will make sure to take a few videos so that you can see them all set up. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna be up bright and early to meet some friends at a plant sale in Reading, Massachusetts. We went to this sale last year. It's a huge sale, but we went on the second day and a lot of people had already come and picked up plants. They still had a lot left, but it was certainly a little more picked over. So we're gonna go early this year and see if we have a larger selection to choose from. I will be sure to share it with you. It's just a really cool sale, and it's fun to support local gardeners who are all growing these things or dividing things from their own gardens. So that will be fun. And then I think I'm gonna put the dahlia tubers in, and I will be sure to share that. We are leaving the plant sale now. We got there super early, and I'm glad we did because it was packed. There were all kinds of people there, and they were very prepared with wagons and boxes and things to carry their purchases. So now we know for next year, get here early and bring a box or a wagon. But we got about 10 plants. I will show you which ones we got when I got home. But now we are going to enjoy some breakfast with friends, and then we're gonna head back home and prep for our own land trust plant sale. So I made all those signs yesterday, and now we've got to haul everything over to the barn to set up. So we'll see if I have time to get these things in the ground today. I'm hoping I will. It started to rain a little bit, but hopefully it'll hold off this afternoon and I'll be able to stick some things in the ground. So we will see. We'll keep an eye on the weather and play it by ear. Back home, and I'm going to show you everything I bought from the plant sale. Most of these I tried to get in pairs except for 2 of them so we could spread them about and have a little bit of symmetry wherever I put them. Everything I bought is a perennial, so eventually they'll grow larger, we can divide them and continue to spread them more. But for now, you know, we're starting small, knowing they're gonna grow nice and large. I will pop photos on screen so you can see what they look like, because right now they're just clumps of green leaves. So first up, I got 2 calamintha. These are the Montrose white variety. They have aromatic foliage, white flowers. They grow 12 to 18 inches. They attract bees and butterflies. They're full sun, and they like dry flowers. So we got 2 of those. This is what they look like now, but they'll get nice and big and bushy. Next, I got 2 French Kiss hellebores, and I'm excited about these because these are early bloomers. So when you're tired of winter and you're just ready to see color in your garden, these start to bloom really early, so they give you just like a hint of spring. They like part shade to full shade, and they get about 18 to 24 inches in height. Then I got 2 allium summer beauties. So you know I love my alliums. I just think they are the cutest flower. They're the little purple pom-poms. This one is a long blooming ornamental onion that produces showy globe-shaped lavender flowers from July to August. So this thing's blooming all summer long, which is great. It's deer and rabbit resistant, it attracts bees and butterflies, and it likes full sun. So the more alliums in my garden, the better. Next, we have Penstemon digitalis. So this is the foxglove beard tongue variety. I actually tried growing some penstemon from seed, and a few of them germinated, but they're super tiny still. So I'm not sure they're gonna go anywhere, and I figured I might as well get a slightly more mature plant. This is a native wildflower with spikes of white or pink flowers, 2 to 3 feet, and it likes sun to part shade. And then I got one of these. That was all they had left, but I just thought it was so pretty, so I had to grab the last one. This is called Pulmonium or Jacob's Ladder, and this is a lush, compact mound with ferny foliage and soft blue flowers. It's good for borders and woodland gardens, and it likes acidic soil. It grows about 12 inches and it likes part shade to shade. And last but not least, I got a native hydrangea arborescens. The variety is called Haas Halo. It's a native variety with huge white lace cap flowers. It likes sun to part shade, and it gets about 5 feet by 5 feet in size. No clue where I'm gonna put any of these yet, but they were all giving the like colors and style that I like, so I figured I would grab them, and I will always find a place to put plants. So that is my haul from the Reading plant sale. I will include a link to that because if you're in the New England area, it is such an amazing sale. There are all kinds of local gardeners that contribute to it, and they have a huge selection of perennials. They even have vegetables. They've got just all kinds of stuff and lots of unique things too that you wouldn't necessarily pick up at your local garden center, which is fun. On our way home, we stopped at Ace Hardware for a few things. I got some bone meal fertilizer that I will be using when I plant the dahlia tubers. That was a recommendation from our friends Kristen and Max, who are the only other people I know that currently plant dahlias. So they said when they plant their tubers, they throw a handful of bone meal in with them. So I figured we'd give it a go. We also got some brass quick connectors for the new hoses we got, as well as a brass spray nozzle so that I can water the front garden. And we also picked up 3 wire metal hanging baskets that are reusable. They have a coconut fiber basket that you can just throw your potting soil and your annuals in, so you can kind of make your own hanging baskets. I like the idea that they were reusable because those plastic baskets are just not my favorite, and they just deteriorate, they break, you have to throw them away every year. And while they're really easy because you just buy the basket and hang it up, I'm a little more picky on what things look like. So now that we've run our errands, I am going to gear up and we're gonna head outside to plant up some dahlia tubers. That was really quick and easy to do. I just kind of laid out my tubers where I wanted to plant them. I did a row of 4, 3 in the middle, and then 4 on the other side. I dug a hole about 6 inches deep. I sprinkled a little handful of bone meal on the bottom, placed the tuber on its side, and just covered it back up with dirt. You really don't want to water your tubers until they start sprouting up, so I will wait until we start to see things popping up. Then we'll focus on watering them, and at that same time I will tie the jute twine around these stakes so that we can corral the flowers as they get tall and give them support so they don't flop over and break. Before I wrap up the vlog, I did want to show you those brass quick connectors and the nozzle I bought. So the quick connector kit came with 5 different parts. There were male and female connectors and this right here, which is a shutoff valve. You can see here on the faucet we've got a brass splitter with 2 shutoff valves. I've got a female connector screwed into the splitter. Then I've got a male connector screwed into the hose. And now whenever I want to disconnect the hose, I can just slide this piece down and disconnect it. It's as easy as that, which makes it so much easier so you don't have to screw your hose on and screw it back off every time you want to disconnect it. And it just clips back on like that. Same thing down here, but we do have the shutoff valve in between those 2 connectors. It's the same as at the spigot. You can just slide this piece down, and if I had 2 hands, you could pull the nozzle right out. So that's nice if you want to use different garden hose attachments. You can swap them out easily with these quick connectors. I especially love the look of them. The brass is just so sharp and I am very happy about that. So I will include links to the nozzle and the quick connector kit in the description below in case you're interested in this, and I will keep you posted on how they wear. So far, so good. That's all for this week. We still have tons of things that need planting, so we will pick up next week's vlog with more of that. I also have the plant sale tomorrow on Sunday, so you can see the signage and all of our setup, and then we will see what else the week brings. As always, thank you so much for watching this week. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future updates. Leave any questions in the comments and check the description for any links I've mentioned throughout, and we will catch up again next week.